What's going on? This is J.PERIOD, DJ, producer, musical storyteller at Sound Exchange. One of the things about the way I approach all this is that, you know, I'm a fan first, so I always choose artists that I love to work with anyway. So, you know, everybody in my catalog I have a different, you know, love for. But I think the Q-Tip mixtape really was one where it started out with this idea of, you know, remixing older stuff. And then it turned into something where all the artists I asked to recreate Tribe classics were so excited to do it that we ended up having a whole album's worth of, you know, remade Tribe classics with De La and Kweli and all these folks. So that one, more than anything, I think was a tremendous accomplishment. And then, I mean, the second one I would have to say is the Lauryn Hill mixtape, just because, you know, that happened at a moment where, you know, people had kind of started to forget just how amazing she is, and you know, I got to be the person to remind them. So I'm really proud of both of those ones. I mean, you know, the Hamilton Mixtape is a really incredible story just because it's the first opportunity I had to do what I do in mixtape world, you know, in the full light of the sun. And the result is, you know, was a Billboard #1 album, my first gold record. It's just been an incredible experience. And the original title of Hamilton was the Hamilton Mixtape. So their notion was that, you know, in order to get hip hop people to understand what this was, they needed a mixtape. It grew into this phenomenon, you know, beyond anyone's comprehension. And so this idea of a mixtape was no longer necessary, but the idea of taking the play out of the out of the Broadway world and into the, you know, the music world became this thought. And ultimately that leads to this moment where I'm invited to the studio at Electric Lady, and Questlove hands me his phone, and on his phone on FaceTime is Lin-Manuel Miranda. And he's basically like, "Have you seen the play?" I say, "Yes." He's like, "You know, how much do you know about it?" At that point I'd been listening to the soundtrack for about 6 months. And so I was very familiar with it. And, you know, what ended up happening was he said, "All right, so I want you to listen through the music and, you know, do your thing and figure out how you would arrange these records to tell a different kind of story." And so I literally sat in the corner of Electric Lady while the Roots are working on their new album. You know, I'm in the corner with headphones on, and I made essentially a mock-up of the entire mixtape, you know, from 4 p.m. until 4 a.m. the same day that all this happened. And that, you know, blueprint became the seed. Probably 90% of that day's work ended up being the finished product for the Hamilton Mixtape. So, you know, it's definitely been an incredible ride, and I'm happy with the result. The Rise Up project began about 2 years ago after Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were in the headlines, and I made a phone call to Ralph McDaniels to sort of tell me the story about how Stop the Violence movement happened. And self-destruction. And that led me to talking to Young Guru and Jazzy Jeff, and sort of the whole playlist ideology of bringing artists together became a seed in my brain for this idea of bringing artists together around social justice issues. That then led us to apply for and receive a grant from the Kellogg Foundation, which I don't think has ever happened, to make an album, and to really sort of take this idea around to artists, create spaces for creating music, for conversation. And it's led to this amazing project called the Rise Up Project, which is coming out very soon, which is, you know, Black Thought, Posthumous from De La Soul, Pharoah Monch, Eric Roberson, Aloe Black, Andra Day, Dead Prez, all these artists that are really committed to this idea of using music for social change. And then, you know, also creating spaces where we do events. So I've taken the live mixtape to the Kennedy Center, to, you know, Brooklyn Academy of Music, to really sort of create these spaces to have conversations around these issues. You know, music has always been central to social movements. And, you know, my work on, you know, the Hamilton Mixtape, really, Hamilton showed the way in which, you know, a great melody, a great song can carry a message more powerfully than anything. So that's kind of what we set out to do with the Rise Up project, and it's been an amazing success so far, and I'm really excited for the world to hear the music we've created. I mean, to me, it seems like a really great way to balance the playing field a little bit. I think that in hip hop, the producer is as much the artist as the artist, but that doesn't really exist in other genres. So the fact that the industry is catching up to that now and, you know, providing an opportunity for artists to really recognize the producer, I mean, that's an amazing thing. I mean, again, you know, for myself and all the producers like me, you know, DJ producers who, you know, wear many hats and play many roles, like it's great to sort of get that acknowledgement. You see some DJs and producers becoming the artist, but there's a lot more behind the scenes you might not know about that are actually responsible for making that pop. So in that way, you know, I'm glad to hear about that, and you know, hopefully it will work and level the playing field.